Hi, this is Jill Ferguson, host of Let's Talk About Love's Stories from Everywhere. And I'm very excited to introduce to you my guest today. Her name is Velveth Schmitz, and we met in Miami actually at the CEO Coaching International Conference last month. And it turns out that we live in neighboring towns in California. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, what a big question. So first, thank you for having me. Since Miami, every conversation we've had feels like a little bit of food for the soul. So I appreciate you and I appreciate being here. I am a girl from LA. So it's really interesting because as I reflect who I am and what makes me, it's every aspect of Los Angeles. I grew up here in a pivotal time. When I was in high school, we had the Rodney King trial and all of that upheaval. It was the up and coming of a very forward, in your face rap and culture scene. And I feel like that really shaped me a lot because of the kind of melting pot that Los Angeles is. But I'm fortunate enough that I grew up in a small town in the San Gabriel Valley. I grew up with a very close-knit family. I walked to school, elementary school, every day. My neighborhood was a cul-de-sac with lots of different people. And I think I'm starting there because both those things really tell the story of who I am. Oftentimes, I have heard that I'm a little bit of a mystery. I have lots of contradictions, the things that I love and the things that make me up. And so I would say I'm a little bit of everybody, all meshed into one. I am a loving, very supportive individual. I'm a cheerleader of others, and I don't take myself too seriously. I'm a very hard worker. And in the end, I think one of the most important things is that the people in my life know that I love them and that my mission on this planet is to have people feel seen and heard.
What a beautiful mission. Wow. I love it. And okay, so to that end of having everybody around you feel seen and heard, if your LinkedIn profile is anything to go by, you are involved in a lot of things and a lot of philanthropic things and community events, right?
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that. What exactly are you doing?
So I have the honor of being an elected official in the beautiful city of Rolling Hills Estates. I have served as council member since 2016. I two-time mayor and have just been reelected. Yes, so very privileged for that. I sit on a couple of boards.
Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, Thank you. I sit on a couple of boards a lot. I've had to do with domestic violence, a lot with education access, and a variety of other sort of community support for individuals who either are economically insecure, housing insecure, or members of survivors of violence. And all of those things that I'm involved in philanthropically and that I choose to give come from my own personal history. So my mother, the courageous woman that she is, left a very violent marriage. She left to raise my brother and I as a single mom. And I saw a community of people wrap around her and us. And so I learned from an early age that you don't do anything alone, that community matters. And the things that I choose to give back to come back to my experiences and those who helped me both growing up in my formative years and still today. There's a couple of other organizations to which I belong. A member of maternal mental health, and I'm a big mental health advocate. I lost my sister. She died by suicide in 2011. And I myself suffered from postpartum psychosis with my second child. And so those mental health causes I give to, again, for the same thing. In everything that I choose to give of my time, it's so that the people who have experienced that can have a ray of hope or know that there's a cheerleader and a supporter for them in me and can hopefully find some solace and comfort in that.
Wow. That's just, I mean, you just said so much,
I
right?
know.
Yeah. So, and you also own a business, I think.
Yeah, well, and then there's my day job.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
had,
It sounds like it's all
actually,
your day job.
yes, that is my
Yeah.
mission. So it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
I've had the very good fortune of having a wonderful, adventurous career.
Mhm.
And I started out in finance. I worked there. I left to start a creative company. I had a creative director who was my partner, and we had a creative side. Sold that, and then went to really building fintech back in the when Santa Monica used to be called Silicon Beach, which
Yeah. I remember that.
was right
I
back
was
in the
in
day.
Silicon Valley then.
Yeah.
So,
And you're like, oh, what are these people calling themselves after?
no, right. There's
Uh,
lots of various silicon places across the,
exactly. So I was there,
country.
and from there, I reconnected with I had the good fortune of playing lacrosse in college and reconnected with some athletes, and we did some work there. And then through a fortuitous connection, which I think, things happen very purposefully and serendipitously.
Yeah.
I met our founder, Kurt Wilkin, who founded HireBetter, and he elevated to chairman, visionary, and I became the day-to-day operator. So in my day job, ironically, when we work at HireBetter, we work on the client side, but we're really working with people. And we're hearing and listening their trajectories, their stories, and matching them up with our clients who have these specific needs. And what's so beautiful about that is our team has really built some awesome brands and companies, and we've had the honor of aligning those things. And when you see someone's talent align with a company who needs it, it's like rocket fuel, and to watch that happen. So you're right. I do the seen and heard. It happens in my philanthropic life and my day job. And
so does HireBetter handle, it's like helps with HR, or is it
so
beyond
that's a great question. Great question. We consider ourselves a strategic talent planning firm. And I say that because we help with culture, we help with HR, we help with things that have to do with people. And then a byproduct of that is that we're a recruiter. And so when we help individuals, someone can come to us and say, I need a CFO, and we can do that. Where we also shine is, how are you at talent acquisition? What is your culture like? We can recruit the best of the best, but are you able to retain them?
Oh, yeah.
You have all the things that we go through. And we had the privilege of sitting in Miami with Boris, who was talking about people. And honestly, when he flashed his slide up, I thought, who gave him RIP? That's exactly what we do, because people are so critical. So we are a talent firm, and we're recruitment. It has what I think is the next evolution in how people are being recruited. We really work with our clients. Sometimes we have to deliver tough news, like, your culture isn't what you think it is. We are here to help you. We want you to be better so that we can attract the right talent.
Hence the name of the company.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant. So yes.
And for any of our listeners that weren't there in Miami, Boris actually, part of his slide said that if you take a top talent at one company and that person gets hired by another company, but it's not a culture fit, that person's not going to be top talent at the new company.
Exactly.
And that's what all the research says. Yeah.
It was really such a validating session. I felt like, oh, this is exactly why we exist as a firm. And I came back to my team and I was like, guess what? We already knew this, but Harvard professor at HBS is proving this. And so it's very exciting when you have third-party confirmation of what you believe to be true, but totally unrelated. And so it was great to see that.
Well, and what you do for a day job, if you want to call it that, right? It aligns with your personal mission of making people be seen and heard. And so whether it's the company being seen or heard, or whether it's an individual person, because we all know that companies wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the people in them. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's often forgotten. And I feel very fortunate. I believe that I purposely chose this time and place to come live, and that was the mission of having people feel seen and heard was part of it. And it's so interesting because when I say that, often people think, "Wow, that's so great of you," or "That's so wonderful." And cat's out of the bag. It's a gift to me. I mean, this is such a when someone feels that they have the trust and the space to share who they are authentically. Oh my goodness, what a gift. And I'm the better for it. So oftentimes it's not, I think I'm selfishly enjoying the benefits of all of this because what a wonderful gift it is when you're seated across someone who feels really open to be themselves and then shares that.
Well, I feel like it's a ripple vibrational effect throughout humanity when each individual person's willing to stand in their own who they are, right? Whether you want to call it their power or
Yes.
authenticity or whatever, if you're willing to say, this is who I am and I'm going to be this person all the time, right? Not
Imagine the pain
please
we would
whoever's
avoid.
around me.
Exactly. And imagine the pain we would avoid if we each did that and what that would mean for all of us. And then so on and that incredible, incredible. Yeah. I should pause and say, thank you to every coach, teacher, therapist I've ever had. I am not here alone. I have arrived through a lot of work, and I'm so grateful for those individuals who imparted their wisdom. And I apologize to some that it took them 3 or 4 tries for me to believe in and take that teaching, but really so grateful for that.
Well, and it's only through the mistakes and failures and the 3 or 4 teachings that we actually do change and learn our lessons, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, we just keep doing the same thing, pretty much. That's the
Yes.
neuro pathways that we've developed the best.
And those are entrenched, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like you have a lot of free time if you're busy being mayor or maybe that is how you use your free time, right?
Well, it's interesting. I have a lot of theories on time. And I'm just going to be honest with you. If I were smart enough, I would have been a physics major. But I went to Berkeley. And if you like physics, you win Nobel Prizes at Berkeley. And I do not have that kind of skill. So I could not be a physics major. And the math early on weeded me out. But the physics and the construct of time, I work very diligently and purposefully to do one thing at a time. And since learning that skill, both through meditation and study, I really want to be in the thing that I'm doing at that moment. And that, as you know, as a fellow practitioner, it extends time in such a way that lots of things can be accomplished in a span of time that you maybe thought wasn't possible.
Yeah.
And so I probably ingest 2 to 3 books a week. I sit in my garden.
And you're not doing it through Blinkist, right? You're reading the books.
No, I'm reading them cover to cover. And I always have to, I read on my Kindle a lot because I have this, now I'm back and forth. I love the smell of books. I love the library, but the ability to not be a resource hog and really be mindful of our planet, I've started to read more on the Kindle. But I always, as you know, that opens to the first page. I always have to go back and I start with the title page and I want to know who they dedicated the book to, what the printing press says. I'm one of those nerds. Like I read all that. And so
I'm glad to hear somebody does actually, because our books designer just sent me over a book that's coming out next month. And I was looking at it and he's like, I didn't do the dedication yet. Who should I make the dedication to? And it's like, it's nice to know somebody actually looks at that.
Please, every author out there, I read your dedication. And then sometimes like when it says to Sam for everything, I'm like, who's Sam? Is that their partner? Is that their friend? What is their kid? Maybe it's a cat. I love
that.
yeah. I love wondering who it is. So I do. And I ask my family, I'm like, I don't really think I have hobbies because I don't think that I do, but I have the time to, yeah, that is a hobby. I have the time to go for a walk, to sit outside. I really like to cuddle with my girls when they'll, either my older one's home, my younger one when she will allow it. And I don't find that I'm pressed for time. I feel like there's really, and I'm probably hard on myself. I'm a hard judge where I'm like, what I should be doing more.
No, because you also need to be in rest and everything else. Right?
Well, I'm learning the grace of rest. I'm learning what rest does. And I'm learning that I don't do a good job of rest.
And I know in a previous discussion, we've talked about how you and I are both people that wake up between 2 and 3 most mornings. And,
and say hello to whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's a busy hour, that 2 to 3. Yes.
It is. It got my dogs up this morning between 2 and 3, and they were like, hey.
Right? Yeah. Today was very, I agree. Yeah.
So what kind of books do you read? Since you said you read a lot of books, and I'm like you, I've, already read 60 something books this year. So
yeah. Which good. Wow, good on you. So I do enjoy historical fiction. I find the genre to be interesting, and I always said I did not like sci-fi or fantasy. That's a lie. I think I really do like it. Based on series that I have ingested in a flash, I apparently really do like it. I read a lot of, I guess the category would be self-help books to challenge thinking and things like that. And then I dabble in the mathematical physics. I don't know if you saw I think it's one of the awards was just one, and I saw it through my library, a young woman who is a concert violinist, and she wrote a memoir about her anxiety performing, but it's intertwined with math and physics.
Oh, wow.
It's fascinating. And now I wish I could remember the title to tell you, but I started it this week actually. And so it's really very well written, incredibly intelligent young woman, and her fight with anxiety and performance anxiety and how it was crippling and really changing the way her body even worked when she was on stage. So it's really fascinating read.
Interesting. We'll have to look for the title of that.
And then share it. Yes. Yes.
So you said you read a lot of self-help books. Are they general self-help? Or are they businessy self-help? Or
a little bit of both. One of the interesting things so on the business front, I don't consume all of them. I'm judicious with what I read. There's just a lot. Before I had children, I didn't want children, and I never learned. So when I found myself pregnant, I thought I probably should learn. So I read all the emotional intelligence, Daniel Siegel, all the Alfie Kohn ways to talk, those kinds of improvement. And then of late, the self-help category that I read are more energetic, spiritual books about growth and, people like Mike Dooley, and we talked about Lee Harris, and I've read a couple others, Ainsley McLeod, I believe is his last name, Ainsley, one of the Ainsleys. And that sort of, I'm a lifelong learner. I think Carol Dweck, yay on you for all the research that you've done. You are phenomenal, and 100%. I have such a growth mindset. I believe, there was so much to know about Like sometimes it's too
Everything.
much. Yeah, sometimes it's too much. There's so much to know about everything, and I'm like more,
Yeah.
more, more. So yeah, it's all of those I would call self-help. They improve me, and so I don't know if you've ever read You Should Talk to Someone. It's
Yeah.
a blue cover. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, I love that book. I mean, so well written, but also really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what other things do you love besides reading and walking? Do you have like, when you want to walk, do you want to walk by the beach, or do you want to walk in the woods with the trees, or
It's
somewhere
so
in between?
interesting. I love both. I live by the ocean, which you and I have access to the Pacific, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. And I love the sound of the beach. The ocean has always been a sort of healer for me, a place of grounding. But, or I should say, and one of my favorite places on earth is in Northern California in the Stanislaus National Forest. And it's the Berkeley Summer Camp, the lair of the golden bear. And I love the trees. I love the way they sound with the breeze. I love standing near them. I had the privilege of working there for 3 summers, and living outside in a forest is amazing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And I think in the end, it's the natural world that I love being in. I'm trying to, I don't speak bird. I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
They speak to me so loudly all of the time.
Yeah.
And I love them. And I haven't figured out how to communicate. They are saying a lot.
Yeah.
And I said, even probably a week ago, I said to them, I don't speak bird. So I'm trying to figure out how I would do that. And I think that's how I feel about the natural world. I think it speaks so much. I love it. I love it. I want to protect it. I want to be in it. I don't quite know yet. And it's interesting because something in me is saying you innately know.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say that to you. Yeah.
But don't you kind of want sometimes a scroll to be like, this is what I'm saying?
Yeah, sometimes. But I was thinking that when you said I don't speak bird, because you actually do. And the bird doesn't need you to speak its language, because you share common, let's say, thought patterns, right? You can transmit your thoughts to it. And I'll give you an example of that when I didn't know I was doing it. I was in Madrid, Spain, speaking at a conference, and I think it was before I was going off to speak, like maybe the day before. And the co-author of a book was there too, and with his wife, and we were speaking together jointly at this education conference. And so we told them that we would meet them at this park in Madrid, and it turned out there was like this big art show going on, and various other things which we didn't know about. But so we went to, my husband and I were walking along the path. We walked through a bunch of trees. We looked at a bunch of things nature wise, and then there was a bench, and we realized we were a little early, so we thought we'd wait for Joseph and his wife. And so we sat down on the bench, and it's maybe 5 minutes after sitting on the bench, this bird comes flying directly at me and lands between my feet, just in the dirt. And it hopped around to make itself do like a 180. So it was facing out from between my feet. And I was like looking down at the ground like this, talking to it. I'm like, hey, welcome. What are you doing here? And, what do you need? And it stayed there. It made just 2 little cheap sounds. It was it looked like a mourning dove-ish type of bird. And all of a sudden it kind of did this and got itself comfortable. And then it literally died in between my feet, put its little head against its chest, and expired. And it was, I was like kind of teary-eyed, because I was like, oh my gosh, this thing just died between my feet. I didn't touch it, knew better to do any of that. And I was like, what happened? And my husband's like, I think it didn't want to be alone. And it knew that it could trust you. And when Joseph and his wife came up the path, Joseph was like, you have a dead bird between your feet, right? And I said, yeah, it just arrived. It got comfortable. It turned itself around. And I said, and then it expired. And he said, of course it did around you. He said it needed a peaceful place. And he said the exact same thing my husband did was it didn't want to die alone and it knew it could trust you. And I was just astounded. Like, I'm not even sure how you respond to nature that way, right? But I felt honored and humbled and so much love for everything around me, all the nature, this little bird medium-sized bird that decided it was done for whatever reason. And so I think that us, by being who we are and sending out love into the world all of the time, interacting with the birds, and we're interacting with bees and butterflies and deer and anything else that we come across, right? Even the little insects that are out and about that we don't necessarily see. Of course, those little ninja mosquitoes that live around here, I could do without.
Same. So let me ask you some questions, because that is such an interesting space. Had it been clear to you that you were the trusted, safe space for it to die so it wouldn't die alone?
Not until the people pointed it out. I mean, I've had the experience before this happened, where I would have butterflies land on me, or sometimes a bird even would land on me if I was sitting outside, and they just always, it just always seemed like I was an animal whisperer, if you were, or something, right? So that they knew that it was okay to come near me.
I asked that because often when I learn something, and it may not be the direct thing, but it's when someone else points out, and then I stop and think, oh, naturally. Yeah. But I wouldn't have thought that all on my own.
Yeah.
And so often when the birds are speaking or the plants are waving, I'm alone, and I'm looking around like, did anybody else see that? And so then if a person is around, and if I say, did you see that? And they'll say, well, of course they were doing X. And then it's crystal clear. Like, how could I have missed that? But if I'm alone, I don't quite jump to the clear answer. Do you have that experience now when you're alone and it's clear, or is it helpful when someone else points it out?
I think it's both and. Sometimes it's clear to me what's going on, and then other times, like at this point, I wouldn't necessarily have framed myself like this is that I'm this safe space for them, or that like I know personally I'm a safe space for animals, but I wouldn't know that the animals would know that, right? Right. Until somebody else points it out and says, no, it's the energy you carry with you all the time. And it was like, oh, okay. So other people were noticing that. And so that makes more sense, right? But I have this little example from today even where I kind of was like, oh, this is cute and look at this happening. But so tomorrow's my birthday. And
happy early birthday.
Thank you.
I love birthdays.
And we have some neighbors coming over this afternoon for champagne and cake. And my husband was putting up this big happy birthday banner. And we have this area in our backyard that there's a Buddha fountain and that came with the house, and chaise and chairs and everything. And so he's putting up this big happy birthday banner, and he gets the happy birthday banner up, and all of a sudden a squirrel comes down from I don't know where, a fence, a tree, who knows, right? Sits on a chair in the gathering of chairs that we put together for the party, and is sitting on the chair, and he's looking at me as I'm coming out of the house going, like he's all ready to party.
Yeah, he's like, thanks for having this. I will be here.
And so I took a picture of him and I sent it to my parents and showed my husband, and I'm like, look who's invited himself to the party, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
and so at that point, I got that. Okay, it wants to participate with our, because
Mhm.
seems so
Yes.
obvious. But
Yes. I mean, at that point, yeah.
yeah,
But an obvious incident that occurred, and for the benefit of the audience, the morning I met you, there was a tectonic shift that happened at a very deep level, and that I I felt very strongly the energy, and we had a conversation where even I think both of us got teary-eyed, and it was a very powerful moment. And we didn't really say much. It wasn't like a long conversation. It was a very direct. And I think our
and there was a lot of other
feels
people sitting
exactly.
around us, like
Yes.
10 or 12 people at the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like our fields of love sort of,
Mhm.
and I felt the moment of like, well, I felt that. And I knew, I mean, I think I told you in a later conversation, my entire being knew you.
Yeah.
And it was that was trusting and crystal clear.
Yeah. And we can have those same experiences with non-human entities, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
animals, plants, whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
and we can certainly have them with humans, but so often we're not open to it, or others aren't open
Mhm.
to it, so it doesn't
Right.
happen as well.
Right. Right.
Which goes back to the being seen and heard thing that you mentioned at the
Mhm.
beginning.
Which right. I
Yeah.
mean, I tried to lead with love so that that's what people feel, and then they feel like they can reciprocate or be open. And I know, a lot of people on this planet have experienced things that a way for them to stay safe has been to keep a
Yeah.
tight lid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people that are in that space, right? We have the same equal amount of love for them that we do than people that are more open.
The
Or
secret, like the people, I'm like, guys, you real like I love you no
yeah,
matter what.
Yeah.
With all of the abundance.
yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I know. There's so much of it.
So can I go back to something else you said? And it
Yeah.
might be putting you a little bit on the spot, but I think you'll
Mm.
be willing to.
Yeah.
So you said that you didn't think you were ever going to have kids, right? And then you found yourself
Mhm.
pregnant with it's a daughter, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And how did you make that shift within yourself, right?
Oh, yes. So,
Speaking of love.
yes, when I met my husband at said camp,
Okay.
and I immediately knew that this was different, and so naturally I tried to sabotage it because that's what I did. And, at the end of our first summer, we had been dating, and I said, "Okay, well, you're going to graduate school, and I'm finishing undergrad, so bye." And really hard front. And I had told him all summer, I'm not relationship long term. I will never be married or have children. So at the end of the summer, I said that, and he said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, we're breaking up right now." And he said, "No, we're not." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "I love you. I'm not breaking up with you." And something burst in me, and I started crying, and I was like, "I love you too." And then I'm like, "What am I saying?" And I said, "I want to make it work." So 4 years later, I walked in to a room and I said, "You know what? I would marry you." But
It took 4 years
yeah,
to say
no
that.
kids,
Yeah.
and I would marry you. He was like, I'm happy without any of that,
Mhm.
but I would love to marry you. It's good to know." And then, of course, we got engaged and got married. And 4 years later, I walked in a room and I said, I would have one kid with you. And I'll tell you what got me there. So I saw how hard my mother worked. And I also saw that it was a constant negotiation. I can do this for the career, but I can't because I have these children.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to have to pick. I knew that work, and it didn't, I mean, I could be cleaning toilets, making coffee. It didn't matter what I was doing, but whatever I choose to do, I give my whole self, and I didn't want to compromise. And I felt that if I had children, I would inevitably have to put them first. And that's my belief is if you choose to have a child, that child didn't say, hey, have me. It was really your conscious decision to do so. Now, I do believe that certain beings pick you, and there's a whole other story there, but I knew that would be difficult. And so in the time of marriage to us choosing to have children, a couple of things needed to happen. I needed to understand that 100% I had a partner, and I never wanted to fall into traditional roles. So I needed to know that if I was working and something was going on with the children, that my partner would 100% show up, and that neither of us would carry the burden of all of the work or all of the raising of the children. And it took me a while to figure out how I could ascertain that. I have a wonderful husband, and he is 1000% the partner. And it wasn't him. He's always been that. It was me getting to a place where I believed it and could trust it. The second thing is my mother, by way of being a single mother and having a career and having left a violent marriage, raised me in a way that she felt I needed to have armor, and that the world was hard, and that as a woman it was harder, and and she was tough on me. And I didn't know if I had the softness of the care and comfort that a mother needed to give a baby or a child. And it's so interesting because that sort of hits my I didn't know if I had that. I didn't know that I could be soft. I didn't know that a version of me you're seeing a person who is loud and proud about love. But I grew up I grew up with a game face, and I didn't know if I could lower that enough. And my husband knew it because he had seen me. And actually, one of my dear friends from college, I don't even know when it was in our friendship where I said, well, I said something about myself, and she turned and she said, what? You are nothing but a softie. What are you talking about? And I was like, what? And she said, like, people who don't think that don't know you. And he also saw that. So he was very surprised that I even struggled with something like that. But I needed to
I actually think it's amazing that you struggled with it, because there's plenty of people that don't have the self-awareness that would have even realized, like, hey, I'm not sure that I could be cut out for this. Right.
Well, thank you for that. That's very gracious. It's probably also because I've been in therapy since the 7th grade. And I knew innately the kind of tenderness that it would take. And I'm hard on myself. I ran marathons. I was an athlete. I got straight A's. The drive that comes with a little bit of a harshness that I didn't know, really, truly. And it was good to question. And then, of course, wanting to know everything about everything, I needed to do some research about all of the things. And I knew that in marrying, my husband's name is Chuck, in marrying Chuck, I had broken generations of violent unions, and I had really drawn up a whole new path. And I was the first woman in my lineage to marry a partner who is loving and trusting and comforting and compassionate. And that was so huge that I thought, I'm kind of asking, now I'm pushing it. Like I should just take this, be thankful, like this is huge.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is I knew that my union with my husband would bring forth these amazing people. And so I decided to have the one. which we now have two, obviously, because once we had her,
Yeah.
and we were actually discussing, she's home right now from university, and we were talking about when she was little, and the memories of the whole transformation and who she was and how really she came to raise us.
Yeah. So I think kids do that in a lot of different ways, right? That sometimes parents don't even realize. And it's
Yeah.
way before the parents get to the age where they need to be parented.
Yeah. Now here's the question, an answer to a question you did not ask.
Okay.
Yes, I would have been as fulfilled and full of love had I not had children.
Yeah.
And I think I say that confidently because that was the last piece. I made sure that if I didn't have any children, if I chose to live my life, just my husband and I and me, that I would feel complete and content.
Mhm.
And I made sure I was clear about that, because if I ever did choose to have a child, I would never live vicariously through them.
Yeah.
And so I made sure that I was full and fulfilled. And yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And I am.
I've been in that space. I know that. So, yeah.
I think it's such an interesting space as women to be in. And I really hope that every woman has the luxury of going through their own journey to decide what's right for them, and that we support and applaud the choice they have made.
Yeah. I'm a female who chose not to have biological children, right? And then I also chose to get into a relationship where I would have stepchildren later in my life. So
And how wonderful
yeah,
to experience both. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And the fact that we can,
yes,
that's the thing. Celebrate that we each can make the choice that's right for us.
yes. No pressure, no other people's expectations. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
that's wonderful. And do you have a favorite quote about love or about life?
A favorite quote. You know,
Or a mantra you live by?
that's really interesting. Yeah. I think I love when people have quotes, and I love when there are things that they can succinctly point to.
Mhm.
I'm a lover, and I fall in love with everything. And so there are many, I've always felt that the simplest, most sincere sayings about love are those that are often whispered to a loved one or heard through very quiet. I don't think that there's anything in particular. I do try to live with I guess it's not in the affirmative, which I probably should switch it, but my approach and the way that I look at things is to do no harm.
Mhm.
I want to provide love and support, but at the very least, if the only thing I can do is not harm and just then I think I have learned through my softness and openness that sometimes the best thing I can do is just be silent and be there. And so I try to live by that.
Be a silent witness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Witness nonetheless.
Yeah. There's power in that.
I find I'm sure this happens too. Lots of places that I go, people share very intimate, sometimes difficult information. And often someone will say, as soon as they're done, I don't know why I just told you that. I never tell anyone that. Right.
Yes.
And you'll say, I know why. And you don't even need to answer the why. It just is. And that silence, that our love precedes us when we enter a space. And that, I love that.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful thing. But now you made me think about it. I should really look for a quote about love. What's your favorite quote about love?
I don't have a favorite quote about love, but I have this strange thing lately where if I open a Yogi tea, the brand,
Yes.
I keep ending up with these little quotes about love every time.
Oh,
So the
it's
greatest
because
strength is love was one
ah,
from last week.
yes.
And love is the ultimate law of life was the week before.
Ooh.
And so love stuff is just coming to me and at me.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
I guess one of my favorite quotes of all time isn't officially a love quote, but I believe that the love is implied. And it's the Rumi quote about meeting someone in a meadow beyond right or wrong.
Ah, that is a good.
Yeah.
I mean, Rumi also genius.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh,
And I don't think that you can be super judgy if and still show
yes.
love. So
Right.
yeah.
I mean, who could? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if love is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking to you.
What a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like my soul is full, and you've helped me to also reflect on things that I feel, man, I am one lucky gal.
Yeah, I am too. I agree.
It's wonderful. And thank you for telling me that tomorrow is your birthday.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope the squirrel has a great time at the party
Yeah,
and the people too.
yeah. Well, it's the squirrel will probably be here calling my dogs to come out and play soon because that's what they do.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.